1,300 miles, 6 states, and probably the most diverse terrain I've ever seen on a BDR. Today we're going to break down the NEBDR, the Northeast Backcountry Discovery Route. Who is it for? Is it big bike friendly, especially on those class 4 roads? And is it actually harder than the Mid-Atlantic BDR? Okay, so let's talk first a little bit about the route itself. I call it kind of a technical marathon. The NEBDR is, like I said, 1,300 miles, 6 states. It is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. A lot of technical sections in there, but they throw them in small sections. It's not really too bad as far as collective technicality. But I would definitely, as I mentioned, this is a technical marathon. As I mentioned on the Mid-Atlantic BDR, I kind of just describe that as a nice flowy BDR that nearly anybody can ride, but we'll touch base on that a little bit. They have some really primo dirt sections out here, just great flowy gravel roads. You can get up on some speed. You get definitely some steeper areas, a little bit of mud and rocks, into the Berkshire, the Green Mountains, and especially when you head into the Northern Appalachians and the White Mountains. So there's very diverse day-to-day technicality, and there's just quite a bit to offer there. Breaks down into 8 total sections, starting in Hancock, New York, up to the Canadian border in Maine. All right, so let's break down section by section. You can kind of group them together and how the feel of each section is. Before we do so, you'll probably notice that the bike is actually shiny and clean. This is not what it looks like when I got back from the BDR. Just got it cleaned, got the full service done, and it will look very dirty very soon. Back to the sections. The New York sections, looking at section 1 and section 2, starting in Hancock, New York. Good warm-up sections. You have, some flowy areas, farmland. You get into the foothills of the Catskills and start climbing a little bit up to the Catskills. The Papacton, I think that's how you say it, Papacton Reservoir, that feeds New York City, kind of really gorgeous area, but also an interesting history that is flooded some towns. Crazy information there. But really a good warm-up section. It does throw you in a little bit in section 1 and section 2 into some technical areas. They're short, but fun. Let's stay with fun. Rocky, kind of steep ups and downs in short spurts. Nothing too muddy or anything like that, but you're going to get a little bit of technicality in short spurts. Pretty easy sections. Great warm-up and just a beautiful area. Hancock, New York, just in a reference, is a great motorcycle-friendly town to start in. All right, section 3, you get into Massachusetts and Connecticut. This is kind of the gateway here into some of this technical riding throughout like Beartown, October Mountain State Forest, and up to Mountain Greylock, which I think is a side trail. It's paved. You got to do it. It's epically beautiful. But you get some technical riding into these sections. At points here, again, nothing too long, too hard. There's a couple alt hard sections, but you're going to get some steep stuff, some rocks, a little bit of baby head forest, as I like to call it, and then some mud ruts, some Jeep ruts and divots. Nothing overall, and we'll talk about difficulty here in a little bit, but nothing overall too hard, but it's showing you what is ahead. One interesting point is after really about an hour of on and off pretty technical fun riding, the stuff that I really like to do, we took the side route up a paved road to Mount Greylock, and the parking lot, is steep. So after all that technical riding, coming out unstaved, never dropped the bike, never had any issues, and I put my kickstand down. I'm so excited to see Mount Greylock because it's right on the Appalachian Trail that I hiked. I want to see it. It's just, emotions are flowing. Put the kickstand down, lean in. Right away, I'm swinging my leg over, and I notice the bike is coming with me. It's too steep of an angle, so I dropped it in the parking lot with a bunch of tourists around me staring. And they have no idea what I just rode through and what I would think I'm capable of, or hope I'm capable of. They just see a guy that they probably don't think even knows how to ride a motorcycle. So that was kind of fun. Don't drop it in the parking lot. But you do get some technicality here. You get a lot of fun riding in section 3 and really epic views. I highly recommend stopping at Greylock. It's just a short out and back. Vermont, section 4 and 5. This is a little bit of where the change comes in this area. You get the Green Mountain Challenge, really beautiful mountains. I'm not 100% sure if that's where Green Mountain coffee comes from or not, but I believe it is now. Never did really find out. But the section is a lot of fun. Vermont, very respectively, sometimes is nicknamed Vermud. That is both on adventure bike riding, and everybody talks about it when you're backpacking through the state of Vermont. The mud gets a little slippery. I've talked about it on the Smoky Mountain 500 review. I'll try to get up here and at the end in the description, and the Georgia Traverse review. It's not the same type of clay, but the mud can get real interesting if it's been rainy or you're having bad weather. Something to keep in mind. In this section 4 and 5, there are multiple class 4 roads, a lot of fun, definitely technical. If you're riding with a buddy, do your thing. If you're riding solo, I mean, just take your time through here, don't override your skills. The class 4s in Vermont in the Green Mountains can be challenging. I get into a little bit of my trademark advanced beginner talk from other videos. I truly think advanced beginner is a thing. You can have a really good set of skills as a beginner and really take that next step up. If you're riding solo, even for an advanced beginner, I wouldn't recommend some of these class 4s. I would ride with somebody. I'd like to think that I guess I'm maybe an intermediate, moving towards advanced intermediates. No jokes. I know you watched the videos. I'm trying to get better. But yeah, so these were challenging. Ironically, Barry on one of them left his gearbox open, hitting all these bumps and ruts and going crazy. Had to turn around and redo it, and I thought I lost him. There was breaking communication. That's a little interesting part of the video. But these you really do have to take in mind. If there's been a lot of rain, you're gonna have some mud issues. There are some rocks, some sections that are gonna challenge you. And the alt-harder section in this area, Barry and I did not do. We both were looking forward to it, but in the beginning of this adventure, he was on a little bit of a timeline, my adventure buddy Barry. So we wanted to get to the Canadian border, and then he had to come back home to do some shows and a few things. So then when I came back, I hit some of these class 4 roads, or I should say the alt-harder roads. But just be known, in Vermont, in the Green Mountains, you are going to be challenged. This is really the first time the technicality increases. Once again, I'd like to say the technical marathon. Nothing here was really too long as far as the technical ride, but it's gonna challenge you. If you're not comfortable doing those type of things, I'm sure they're easy, probably right on the map, easy ways to get around it. But I'd recommend at least trying it if you are riding with friends, never overriding your skills, or like an intermediate or above. All right, New Hampshire and Maine, section 6 through 8. These can kind of be put together a little bit. It's very remote. The route changes, it feels different. The history through this entire section is just absolutely epic. Really, this goes for almost the entire route. It's not like the other areas I've ridden in that have great history. I mean, I'm going through 200-year-old towns. I stopped at a general store that was 7 years away, I think 2032. That building reaches 200 years in business. So the history is just different. But the main thing in these sections, again, on and off technicality, a lot of harder routes, which I think are very doable riding with friends or in a group, probably intermediate and above. But these are advanced offshoots you'll see on the map and you can just bypass. If you don't want to do it, if you're solo, you can just go around it. You're still gonna see epic views, the history of the New England states, everything is there for you either way. But these sections definitely change some. You're more remote, not really in the harder sections, but you're very remote. So the one thing is, keep gas in mind. Like the Himalayan here only has a 3.9 gallon tank. I can probably stretch it to 200 miles, a little over depending on riding, but really at that 150 to 180, I'm looking to fill up with gas. And I think there's multiple hauls here that are 125 to 150. So just something you want to keep in mind. It's not extremely long, but gas is something you want to keep in mind. Food options really narrow down. So if you do hit a town with any type of food option, You'll want to take it with you. I always carry snacks. In this case, I ran into a small cafe that really good food. Got a sandwich to go. They didn't, it's a really small cafe. The only to-go bag they had was an actual doggy bag. Like not when you're leaving a restaurant, but like when you're picking the poo-poo up for the puppy. That's what my sandwich was in. I mean, so you can only do so much, but you're more remote, which I loved. It feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're on your own. You're in wilderness. Some harder routes, some more advanced, but nothing, again, at no point in this entire BDR would I say that the technical sections are long or just beat up. A few times you're happy when you get done with a section because it is definitely challenging. You can unclench those cheeks if you know what I'm talking about, and just kick back, relax, and laugh and have a water break. But really remote, gorgeous. I mean, you get up to, Mount Washington, probably the best, I shouldn't even say probably, the best views on the entire trip. One of the craziest, actually most dangerous, weather-wise mountains in the entire world. And then you have, is it Evans Notch views? Like this whole section in the Whites is just gorgeous views. You're above tree line, can't talk about it enough. Yeah, I like everything, but that's probably my favorite sections. All right, down to the nitty gritty. Who is this route for? What bikes is it made for? So I talk a lot about the advanced beginner I have on the Smoky Mountain 500 review. I have on my Mid-Atlantic BDR review, because I think there is truly, I don't think you just go from beginner to intermediate. There is a collection of people, and I remember being there as an advanced beginner. On the Mid-Atlantic BDR, there's a lot of space for that. This route is definitely a little bit more for the intermediate. There's always those group rides and solo rides. If you are going with a group and you're advanced beginner, take your time. I'd probably recommend skipping the alt harder routes. Watch the mud in Vermont, but it can be done. Mostly those is gonna be an intermediate BDR. To just be able to do the entire route, not skip a lot, the intermediate is in mind. And if you're gonna do the alt harders, even in good weather days, the class 4 roads can get very interesting. So I do recommend that's more of an advanced rider, or if you're with friends that are advanced and they won't push you to go too fast. So more than anything, I guess if I were to narrow this down, this is more of an intermediate, so let me try that again, BDR. If you are an advanced beginner, you can go out there and do it. Be very careful what sections you skip and do. Watch the weather. Your advanced riders, all the harder routes, everything is definitely capable. So a little bit different than my speech for the Smoky Mountain 500, the Georgia Traverse, and the Mid-Atlantic BDR. Definitely more challenges here, quite often more challenges. And this route's a marathon, 1,300 miles in and out of technicalities all day long. It can get pretty rough. And it's really the same answer for the bikes. Is this big bike friendly? What bikes? I do think the Northeast BDR here is a little more mid-weights bike friendly, like my Himalayan. Yeah, I'm gonna call it mid-weight. If you're riding a big bike, the 850s, the 1200s, BMW GSAs, the 1290 Super Adventure KTMs, the African Twins. If you're riding the bigger bikes there, you definitely want to be an advanced rider. I mean, know that bike well, know how to handle it well. Kind of opposite on the MA BDR. I'd mentioned that if you're riding a bigger bike, just, don't override your skills, take your time. This is more intentional riding. So I would say the mid-size bikes, and we saw more of those on this route compared to the bigger ones. On the Mid-Atlantic, we saw a bunch of Pan Americans, African Twins, large bikes. We definitely saw those on the NE BDR, but in smaller numbers. A lot of mid-size bikes. It's all about you and how you ride your bike. If you got a big bike and you're an advanced rider, you don't need me to tell you, just go out there and ride it. But be very careful about some of these roads on the bigger bikes if you're not an advanced rider. I definitely will give you that. I will end that with, I think pretty much any bike can do this trail, but I want to stress, if you ride a big bike out there, make sure you can handle it in all conditions. Because that Vermont mud can be challenging, and you really need to know how to handle your bike. Anytime that mud mixes in with rocks, with steep uphills or downhills, anything like that, It can be challenging. The odd part is, and I don't want to be wrong, but as I think back, I don't believe there's a single water crossing that I went through on the entire route. Now, I'm famous for having short-term memory, but I cannot think of one right now, which is really weird, and I enjoy the water. But yeah, I don't think you have to really worry about water crossings. In the comments below, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sitting here challenging myself right now, but I do not believe there is any water that I had to go through. All right, let's cover gear and logistics, kind of the need to knows. First of all, let's touch on tires, which I do for every route. This particular route, I definitely recommend a minimum of an aggressive 50/50 tire. If you've been on adventure bikes long enough, you know there are pretty serious differences at times in 50/50 tires. But have something that's an aggressive 50/50. This is the first one I would push towards a 40/60, a more aggressive off-road tire. Now these numbers not everybody really falls into place on exactly what tires mean what. But I rode the Dunlop 606s, the D606. That's an aggressive tire. I have them on right now, and that is definitely a 60/40. You might be able to say push that maybe that's a 30/70, but I think it's a 60/40. I digress. Like the Tusk 2 tracks, again, slightly more aggressive, probably a 30/70 or 60/40, but make sure your tire's in a line. I think you can do the BDR in a little bit weaker of tires. I don't recommend it, but it can be done. Watch your tires, because the mud, the rocks, the loose uphills and downhills here are going to bite you. There's some pucker power, man. I mean, you're squeezing those cheeks in certain sections, and you need your tires to perform as needed. So I would go in with a quality 50/50 tire or a 40/60 tire. Don't be a victim to one of these class 4 roads because your tires couldn't handle it. That's no fun. Fuel. As I mentioned earlier, more than other routes, fuel can be an issue, especially in Maine. Really the last number of sections, but up in Maine, you can have longer hauls, easily 125 to 150. What I would really fall into place here once you hit Maine and New Hampshire area is don't pass up on fuel. If you see fuel, just fill up. I mean, it doesn't take any time. I know it kind of takes you out of the day's route and such, but that's my recommendation. If you see fuel in 6, 7, and 8 sections, just fill it up. Now, if you have Barry was riding at the time, and Barry got a new bike, so I'll talk to you about that at a different time. But Barry is riding his 850 GSA, which is like, I don't want to say it incorrectly, but I think like a 8-gallon tank. Could that be correct? Or 6.9, I want to say like 8, so he can go forever. But most of us are not in that situation, so don't pass up fuel in sections 6, 7, and 8, or your day could change dramatically. Camping and lodging, one of my favorite things to talk about, because I came from the backpacking world and I love the camping side as much as I love the riding side. So that goes about what gear you carry. Camping in the first number of sections, there's not a lot of primitive camping. You're more regulated to, I mean, if you are a ride and credit card guy, which nothing wrong with that, you're just hitting hotels each night, so be it, you're good to go. We are doing as much primitive camping as possible and stopping at organized campgrounds when needed. I do prefer forced primitive campgrounds for service out in the middle of nowhere. But in the southern sections of this route, really until you hit probably New Hampshire almost, there's not a lot of primitive camping available, which is weird because there's a lot of remote spaces. So have that in mind when you're doing a logistics. You might have to get a hotel or something, or just hop into a organized campground, or hopefully some type of at least primitive Forest Service campground. Once you hit really New Hampshire and Maine, there's a lot more primitive options. It's kind of open. If you want a primitive camp, it is there for you. What I prefer to do, just keep in mind gas and food up there because again, you're more remote. But camping and lodging, depending on what you do, how you like to ride, if you'd like to primitive camp, you're gonna have a little bit harder chance to do that in the south. The northern sections are fine. And be prepared with food and options. That's all I'm gonna say. What we should talk about is the other gear, your tools and accessories. Just be prepped. Some of this stuff is remote. Make sure you can take care of tire issues, flats, tool set, tool set that you can work on your bike in. In this particular situation, I mean, bad days happen, things happen. My rear axle, the bearings and seals blew out on a rough road.
John's tire is shot. We can't drive it. So now we're looking for a U-Haul. And the problem is everything's digital now, so you have to go online and find something. We need something to drive. I put this up onto and drive. And it's 5 o'clock right now, so everything is closed. So we'll have to find a place to sleep, and then we'll go from there.
I had a little bit of wiggle on the road, but it was a pretty rough road, so I didn't notice much. As soon as we got onto pavement, I could feel, wow, something is crazy. Pulled over, brought the bike to the service stand, and everything looked normal. Luckily, Barry had stepped in and he wiggled the tire, and he's like, no, something's going on here. So, I mean, we had to stop for the day, get a U-Haul, get it to a repair shop. They took care of me amazing. Here's actually the video for that. But there was no tool to fix that situation, but make sure in these remote areas, and this section, quite a few sections here are going to be remote, just bring enough tools, take care of your bike. And communication, I ride with my Garmin. Great for logistics, great for gear. So if I am in the middle of nowhere and need it, never have needed it yet, but I have an SOS on the Garmin, and texting. So I could text my position to somebody else if I need, repair or anything like that. So just a few things to think about when you're referring to logistics. Okay, so let's talk about weather. A few things a little bit different here to look at, because a lot of this route is in black fly country. If you are not familiar with black flies, you do not want to be. I grew up in Minnesota. I was in the southern section of Minnesota, which there's not a lot of black flies, but they're bare. Northern Minnesota, they're everywhere. They are just horrific. If I would take a horsefly over that any day. So it's just, black flies are horrible. That's something to keep in mind. Like May and June are big black fly season. September, October are great. So that is something you usually don't have to worry about, flies, mosquitoes and such, but I would take that into account. Other thing is rain. I seem to always ride in rain. Again, I did on this route as well, 2 heavy days of rain, because I don't know, I'm addicted to rain, and I don't know what it is. If you're gonna ride with me, you're gonna have to bring your proper wetsuit rain gear, because it's gonna happen. But keeping in mind, again, I point back to those tires. If you fall into rain in this route, depending on the sections, it's gonna be muddy. So bugs, heat, and mud are something to consider. Just keep an eye out for time of year and season, really for bugs and rain, but something you really wanna consider there. I'm gonna do some comparisons to other rides real quick. So first of all, probably the two that are connected here, the Mid-Atlantic BDR and this Northeast BDR. The Northeast BDR is definitely a lot more technical, not really in long sessions as I've described, in smaller parts, a lot more advanced, harder sections to choose from. And it is a long route. You seem to get rough riding, takes a little more energy to do. The Mid-Atlantic BDR, I think so many people can do it. Advanced beginner and above, just get out there, don't override your skills, and go. So I don't know if this would be my first BDR recommendation. Get some riding under you before you hit here. I don't want to scare anybody away. Safety first. Don't override your skills, and I think most people are fine, but I really do think this is intermediate. And if you want to do all the harder routes, this is an advanced rider situation, depending on how good you are with your bike. Other one is going to be one of my all-time favorites, the Smoky Mountain 500, and I'll put the reviews up here. The Smoky Mountain 500 is a much different ride. 3 days, you're done. Depending on rain, and very particular rain, because of a lot of water crossings and a lot of possible Georgia clay mud, it is probably as advanced as the Northeast here, and much smaller sections, not a lot of rocks, not a lot of baby heads, anything like that, just mud, whoops, ruts. So I think if you're looking for a challenge and you're in the area, the Smoky Mountain 500, I think, is a great route to cut your teeth on to get more skills before doing this, which is because of the length, the amount of energy, and depending where you live for the Northeast, of course for any of these, but the Northeast BDR is all, you know, the 6 states, 1,300 miles. I was in central South Carolina. I rode my Himalayan to the New York border, rode the route, Canadian border back to southern South Carolina. I mean, that's a haul. It's a marathon. It takes a toll on you, and for 2/3 of that time, it's rough riding. So definitely different routes in comparison. All right, here we are. Point everybody's looking for. Final thoughts, pros and cons, and the why. Let's just take a look at kind of a rating system. Scenery, like a 9 out of 10. I don't know what would take to create a 10 out of 10, but a 9 out of 10. The northern Appalachians, the Green Mountains, and the best, probably the White Mountains, the Catskills. Let me try that again. Epic views, rough, rugged mountains. If you're on pavements, it is with huge epic views in front of you. So I give a 9 out of 10 on scenery. On fun, I'll go 10 out of 10. The history is epic and beautiful. These small towns, it's just different. The small towns here are different than the small towns that I'm used to, riding through South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee mostly. Small mountain towns that are a ton of fun. Some of my favorite towns in this country. It just feels different with the history in the New England states of these itty bitty little towns. The history is different, the buildings are different, the people's different. So a lot of fun, extremely diverse because of the size of the route. The different mountain ranges you're skipping into all look like you're in a completely different ecosystem. A difficulty level, I'd probably say like a 7 out of 10. Definitely more difficult. I'd say the Smoky Mountain 500 is also probably a 7 out of 10, but like I just described, a much different looking situation. So I highly recommend it. Absolutely phenomenal route. In closing, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. This is definitely a marathon. It is not a sprint. This is a long route, some rugged technical areas through different mountain ranges that everything feels different. Take your time, have fun, ride with a buddy. There's a lot to take in here. The side trails to Greylock, Mount Washington, and many others are truly epic, once-in-a-lifetime views. Mount Washington's probably one of the best roads I've ridden on this entire country. I would put it right up there with going to the Sun Road and Glacier. So take your time, see the routes, stop in these historic small towns. Definitely schedule as much time as you can so you can relax. Now, everything takes a little bit more time. There's a little more push when you're doing YouTube and recording, but take your time, have fun. Ride with a buddy. If at all possible, go with some friends, go with the group. Just makes the route safer. And just go out there and live your adventure. Like whatever you're looking to do, this route has it. I highly recommend it. I got a link up here to the playlist for the full NEBDR ride. You can check that out. And the Smoky Mountain 500 review, as long as some more stuff down in the description. Have a fantastic day.